What's up, guys? This is TheKephas.
What's the hardest thing about being blind? It's probably the one question I've been asked more than most, and honestly, I've never really loved my answer to it because it's more complicated than people probably expect. I think most people assume the answer is obvious, like the hardest thing about not being able to see is not being able to see. Or something specific like not being able to drive or find work or navigating or reading or, doing day-to-day tasks. Now, those things can be challenging for sure, but I wouldn't consider any one of them to be the hardest thing about being blind. Because for me, the hardest thing about being blind is connecting with people. And I think that's an answer people don't always expect. See, I've always said that growing up and even now, I feel like I live in a world that wasn't really built for me. Like there's this big circle called society and I'm technically part of it, I guess, but I feel like I'm standing just outside the edge of it most of the time. And before we go any further, I want to be clear about something. This is not a pity video. I'm not trauma dumping and I'm certainly not asking anyone to feel sorry for me. I'm simply answering the question honestly, and I'm going to share a few stories to explain what I mean. Because the relational side of blindness is the part that sticks with you the most. I've been visually impaired my whole life, severely visually impaired since I was a baby. So school was kind of rough. Back in the 90s, bullying wasn't handled the way people pretend it was, and I was an easy target. Because I was different. I stood out. I had equipment and giant books, and I couldn't participate in a lot of things. So when you're different as a kid, it makes you an easy target. I got bullied pretty badly. I was picked on, shoved around, and even beat up a couple times. And when I would go and tell the teachers, I'd get in trouble for tattling. Notes got sent home to my mom, and nothing really changed. But eventually my mom noticed I was coming home quiet, depressed, and not myself. And I'll never forget what she said to me. I'll tone it down a bit, but basically she told me, "You're not coming home sad tomorrow. Either you stand up for yourself or I'm going to deal with it when you get home." That was her way of giving me permission to fight back. So I did. I didn't become a tough guy overnight, but I finally pushed back. I got intense, and I had a lot of pent-up anger, and after that, they left me alone. It worked. Now, fortunately, I don't have all that anger anymore. That was a long time ago, and I've certainly healed. But the reason why that story matters is because for a long time, nobody had my back. I didn't know how to stand up for myself because I didn't feel like anyone else would. And that feeling of being on your own kind of sticks with you. As I got older, the bullying faded, but the separation didn't. In school, you're not picked first for sports. A lot of times you're not picked at all. You can't be. You try to adapt, and if you can't, you just don't participate. So I became more of a gamer, more of a nerd, because games were accessible. They met me where I was, but socially things were still awkward. When everyone else is learning to drive, you're still taking the bus. When everyone else is talking about things they saw, you didn't. When conversations revolve around visual experiences, you're on the outside again. And it's not malicious. Most of the time, people aren't trying to exclude you. No one's at fault. No one's doing anything wrong, but that still doesn't always erase the impact. One of the things people don't always understand is how much vision affects communication. I can't read facial expressions or see when someone's looking at me. I can't always tell if someone's waving, smiling, or trying to get my attention. There are times I'll walk right past someone I know and not realize it, and sometimes they get offended. "Why didn't you say hi?" Like, dude, do you know who I am? And then you have to explain, again, "I'm blind. Sorry, I didn't see you." Those moments pile up. They create this constant low-level tension in social situations. You're always wondering if you missed something or if you offended someone, if someone thinks you're rude or distant when really you just didn't know. And on the other side of that, people don't always know how to act around you. Some people are totally fine, while others are uncomfortable or don't care or think they understand your vision when they absolutely don't. And the thing is, you never really know which one you're dealing with. So at some point, I learned to use humor. Like how I call my kids my seeing eye kids. You know, goofy stuff. And I even let other people in on the jokes as well, as long as they punch up and not down. I learned pretty quickly that humor can put people at ease. It signals this is okay, you're allowed to relax. Most of the time it helps, and occasionally it makes things worse, but eventually you learn something important. It's really not your job to make everyone comfortable with your existence. If someone can't handle a joke or can't handle the fact that I'm blind without making it weird, that's probably not someone I need in my life anyway. There's a story I love that still makes me laugh. In 8th grade, my teacher asked me what I could actually see. People ask that all the time. So we were walking outside and I knew there were steps coming up, so I timed it perfectly, pretended I tripped and rolled down the stairs on purpose. She panicked, ran over, and thought I was seriously hurt, and I was just laying there laughing. She remembers that to this day. Being able to joke about it is a reminder that I still get to control how I show up, and I can even use it to connect with others. But sometimes humor only gets you so far. As an adult, the barriers change shape, but they don't disappear. One phrase I've heard my entire life over and over: this probably isn't for you. Whether it's jobs, video games, martial arts, school, or other hobbies. Everything. If I listened to everyone who's ever told me that, I literally wouldn't do anything. I've applied for jobs where I didn't disclose my vision problem, and people were upset when they found out later. Then I disclosed it up front, and suddenly the tone of the interview changed, and I didn't get the job. So damned if you do, damned if you don't, I guess. And I'm not bitter, that's just the reality of it. One of the clearest examples of the disconnect happened at church. One of the pastors approached and asked if I would be willing to edit sermons, burn them to CDs, label them, and help fill orders, completely unpaid, but I was happy to help. The only issue was transportation. I can't drive, and I was upfront about this, so the pastor said he'd come pick me up. I warned him repeatedly this would be a commitment. If he couldn't pick me up, then I wouldn't be able to do the work, but he still agreed. And that lasted for about a couple of weeks. He stopped picking me up, orders stopped getting filled, and then, despite all of my warnings, he got mad. Not at the situation, at me. And eventually they replaced me without ever telling me. No conversation, no heads up, just I was out. That kind of thing has happened more times than I can count. People offer help without fully thinking through what that help actually requires, and when the inconvenience sets in, you're the problem. That's one of the hardest parts, not the blindness, but the misalignment. But to prevent this video from being a total downer, I would like to share an experience where the opposite happened. See, I'm currently taking up Taekwondo, and there are things that are genuinely harder because of my vision. Certain kicks rely heavily on sight. Peripheral vision matters a lot. And I told my instructor I wasn't sure how I was going to do certain techniques. And then he surprised me. He said, "You're right. We do rely on vision for this, but just because you can't see doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means we have to figure out a different way to learn it." And then he demonstrated it without looking to show me that it could be done. Honestly, that moment meant more to me than he probably realizes, because he saw me and he admitted he didn't fully understand and was still willing to walk the process with me. That is so rare. And honestly, I think that's what most people want in life, whether they're disabled or not. Someone who says, "I don't fully get your experience, but I'm still here." And I'll say this too. If you're blind and you have kids, nobody understands you like your kids. To them, this is just normal. There's no awkwardness or fear or confusion. They adapt without making it a big deal, and that is such a gift. Over time, I've learned a few things. I've learned to advocate myself, to be clear about my needs, and to not feel guilty when other people's expectations aren't met. And I've also learned that my worth is not tied to whether people understand me, like me, or include me. That doesn't mean I don't want connection. I do still want friends. I still want community. But I no longer measure my value by how well I fit into a world that wasn't built for me in the first place. So when people ask me what the hardest thing about being blind is, that's my answer. It's relational. It's navigating a world where you're often misunderstood, sometimes forgotten, and occasionally dismissed. And if you're watching this and you relate, whether you're blind, disabled, or just someone who's always felt a little outside the circle, I want you to hear this. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken, you're not a burden, you're not unlikable, and you're also not alone. And even if the world doesn't always make space for you, your existence doesn't need permission.
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button. And feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. And if you'd like to see more videos, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook, and if you'd like, you can support my work on Patreon. Links to all that stuff can be found in the description below. This is TheKephas. Until next time.